Hi there, welcome to your 2022 Keystone Cougar 29Bhs. We are just going to start off the back of the unit. Right at the back, you do have your spare tires. You also have your tuner receiver right down there at the bottom. And then lastly, you do have an extra entrance for the bunk area. Coming around this side, the driver's side of the unit, pulling off this cap is typically where you're going to want to store your sewer hose after your first use. We do have a brand new one located inside the front compartment, which is why there's not one in there yet. Just tries keeping it in the back bumper, just tries to helps keep as much smell out of the unit as possible. And then right there in the corner, you do have your standard 50 amp twist lock connection. You're just taking note of that silver strip here. It lines up with this silver strip on this side, pushing it firmly into place, 8th turn to lock it down, and then you got that threaded collar to really lock it down. If you follow that cord back, you do come to your standard 50 amp plug end. Now a lot of campsites here in Manitoba especially may not have this, so we do include this 30 amp dog bone adapter. That way you can go down to 30 amps of power. And with this unit right now, that is plenty, but you are pre-mounted and pre-wired for a second air conditioner inside the front bedroom. So if you were to have that installed, you'd have to have 50 amp service to run both of those at the same time. But as its current setup with only one air conditioner in the rear, 30 amps is plenty of power. Right here, you're going to come to your first of two sewer exits. Cap right at the back here, taking that off, your sewer hose is going to lock right onto there. Then you got your gray valve and your black valve. You always want to do your black valve first. This can be your dirtiest water filled from your toilets. And then you come behind that with your gray valve, which is typically a little cleaner water filled from your that is technically going to be considered your galley, so it's going to be filled from your kitchen sink. Coming a little further up ahead the unit. You get that service, hot water service port. Main thing you're going to have to worry about, hit that pressure relief valve. There should be a shower of water coming out of there letting you know that the tank's full. We do currently have the unit summarized, but the tank's empty just because we don't know when you're going to be using it next. I'm going to go over reset procedure once we're inside. The button I'm going to refer to is just right there. That's all you really need to worry about inside of there. Coming a little further up ahead, you have your docking station, flipping that guy open. You get your little exterior shower, which comes with this little hose attachment. You can just thread a standard garden hose onto the end of this hose. Quick connects inside there, and you have hot and cold sprayable water. And then you got your main water connection, so threading the garden hose in there, tightening it, make sure it's nice and tight. Seals good. And then you're going to notice this blue valve. The demonstration for it is just right here. So with it pointed the way it is, it's on city water connection. So if you're at a site with service, thread a garden hose in there, turn it on. There's no need to run your water pump. The line's going to automatically pressurize the unit. And then if you were to turn that to the left, you get your tank fill option. So now you're going to be filling your fresh tank through that, and that's what your water pump draws off of. So if you're at a site without water, or you're out boondocking and you want to fill your fresh tank, that is how you do so. Inside this front compartment here, a few different things you do need to worry about. You're going to come with a manual override for those stabilizer jacks in case they were to fail for whatever reason. You got a light switch down here, which is going to turn some accent lights on at the front of the unit and draw in some, show off to your friends a little bit. And then right up here at the very front, you got your electronic leveling system. Pushing the power button, it does turn it on. The 12-volt system does have to be engaged for this to work. Then you got that auto level button, which is what most people are gonna hit the auto level button. All the jacks are gonna start making their way down. They may come down at different times, so don't panic. Just let the unit run through its whole cycle. It'll automatically level the unit. And then of course, if you came to retract or you wanted to manually run the jacks to level it, you're just having to use the arrows. You can either go to manual mode, in which case it'll allow you to use all those jacks manually, or you can come down to auto hitch, which can be set up so that it automatically sets the trailer to the perfect hitch height. One more button down, and and the auto hitch option is also how you can retract all of them, or if you do want to retract all of them, you just have to push and hold the retract button. And then coming around right to the front of the unit, you got your battery disconnect here, switch here. With it pointed the way it is to power on, the power is obviously on. If you turn it to power off, it's going to turn the batteries off, and then you have, of course, what's called a remove cover option. So anytime you remove this cover, you should be turning that switch to that option. Then you get your two standard 30-pound propane tanks right here at the front. Select your valve right here. So with it pointed this way, you're going to be drawing off this tank. If you were to point it to the other way, you'd start drawing off the other tank while this one was getting filled. Like any standard barbecue, counterclockwise, nice and slow to open up the flow of propane to the unit. Power tongue jack right up front. And then coming around to the passenger side of the unit, you can open up this compartment here, in which case there's a little motion sensing light, which you can turn on and off with the top button here. With it in the middle, it's off. With it all the way to the left, if it's on full time, and if you're clicking it to the right, it's going to be on that motion sensing option, so it'll only go off if there's motion around. You got your main entryway door, which will be the door we're entering through today, just not at this very second. You got this little vent flap here. You're always going to release that whenever you get to your campsite. That way you can evacuate those fumes as you make them using your range hood. And then whenever you're camping, clicking and locking them into place. And that allows to seal that off and not allow any excess dust inside of the unit. Down below, peek your head down, you're going to find, that's where you're going to find your two low point drains. And then right on the other side, it's actually on the driver's side, right by that jack, by the yellow arm, you're going to notice that is the fresh tank drain. Couple cable satellite outlets. You have two power plugs. This is going to be a service port for your refrigerator. Nothing you need to worry about here. You have a second exterior shower on this side. And then inside this compartment here, just undo it like so and pull it up. Magnetic latches at the top. You got your little mini fridge. This only works on shore power though, so keep that in mind. It's only going to work whenever you're plugged in. It won't work while you're towing. Pulling this guy open, you're going to notice you got this hose right behind it. Run this hose down behind it. Pull it down, come underneath the floor here, pull off your dust cap. You should always run the dust cap on whenever you're not using it. That way you're not getting any debris inside of here. Then it works like any standard airline. You're inserting the tip, pull back on the collar. And once you push it in, it should lock into place. Now you can just open up your flow of propane and you'll be able to turn up fire on your griddle. As an added safety feature, you can't operate that coupler with the valve open, so you do have to close the valve, disconnect it. And then coming up top, if you flip this guy open, you got your igniter, so it works like any standard barbecue. The grill pieces right up top here. Push it back in, making sure that the hose does follow with it inside. And you're all done. This is going to be for your rear bathroom. And then at the very back here, you got this little port. Opening that up to your standard 751 key, which will come included with your unit. That'll allow you to open it up. It's just a cable satellite box. To get inside the unit, taking that assist handle, pushing up, folding it 90 degrees, it is going to lock into place. It's going to allow you to open up the door. You do have to have your door open all the way for it to allow you to fold the stairs down. Pull on that, towards you. You're going to notice these little red tabs here. Yellow tabs here, that is so you can adjust your feet for your campsite needs. Pulling that guy down. So now that we have the door all the way open, do keep in mind that before you ever run your awning, always making sure you do have the door closed 90 degrees. That way that awning arm can travel in and out freely without causing any damage. If you were to still have the door open all the way, it's a pretty good chance it's going to cause some damage, and that's what we don't want. Now, taking a step on inside, first thing you'll notice, off on the right is that fire extinguisher, which is pretty much just like home. Pull the pin and shoot. And now up on the wall here, this is your main kind of control area. 0000 is the passcode. To get in, you're going to be able to change that through the batteries, but just as a base code, that's what it's locked to. You got your lights all on this, so you can turn on your bedroom, your ceiling lights, which is your main living lights, and then of course your awning LED outside. Hit that back button. Next, you can go to your slides and awnings. Before you ever operate either one of those, especially for the slide out, you're always going to want to make sure you know what's on either side of the slide, inside and out. So making sure it's free. There's nothing during travel that shifted in between the slide out and the wall that's going to cause any damage when trying to put it out. And then of course, just on the outside, making sure you do have enough space to put it out all the way. Once you do all your checks, you can then run your slide out. So just push and hold the out button, On the slide option, slide out's going to start making its way out. Once it reaches its full extension, you can let off that button. You'll know it's at its full extension when you hear the motors wind up and quit. Now, if you want to be extra cautious, you can just run your hand behind here, just making sure that the slide out did press right up against the wall, sealing out any water. Just going to silence the smoke detector for a second. Never mind, it's not even sure what that is. Sorry, it's going to be your fridge, probably because I turned off the propane. Then you do have your awning control, which pretty much works the same way, making sure your doors open 90 degrees. Hit and hold that out button, the awning's going to start making its way out. Whenever you run that awning out, always going to want to make sure you're keeping an eye on the wind speeds. Once they do start picking up, you're going to want to make sure you bring the awning back in, because you don't want to run the risk of bending your arms or ripping your fabric. Happens pretty easily these days, so we do want to try to avoid that from happening, as it gets pretty costly pretty quick. Now you're going to know that awning's at its full extension. You see the back, the little flap hang down in the back of the metal tube, just like so. Sometimes that flap can get stuck, so you might just have to retract it back in a little bit and then try putting it back out, and it should fold down. Now if we were to start raining, you can any arm front or rear, pull down at the center. It's going to change the pitch of the awning, hit on water to now run off. Now if you like that angle better, because it does allow for more shade underneath, you do the same thing with the front arm, just making sure that you do push these arms back to straight before you try and bring the awning in. That way you don't run the risk of bending anything. And then of course, if it were to start raining and you had this out, you were staying nice and dry, and then the winds picked up, so you had to bring it in. If you do bring it in all wet, please try and make sure at your next earliest convenience to try and put it back out, so you can allow it time to dry. That way you don't accelerate the growth of mold or mildew. Now to get the awning in, you're just hitting that in button. The awning's going to start rolling its way in. And once the arms contact the side of the trailer, the motor will automatically cut out. And then you got your settings screen, which again, it's going to go over a bunch of different things. Light screen, we've already went over. Then you got some buttons at the bottom here. Water heater, if you hit that, you can fire it on either gas or electric. If you do fire it on gas, you're going to have to make sure that you have your propane on, of course. And then, of course, it's always a good idea to purge your system by turning on your stove first thing when you get to your campsite. That way you do purge that gas system. We're going to go over that a little bit once we do get to the stove. But just, again, making sure that you did purge the system. And then, of course, just firing on electric is just hitting that. Just make sure the tank is full, because if that probe heats up while there's no water in the tank, it burns out really quickly within a few seconds. So just, again, being cautious of that. And then water pump, hitting that on, it does draw to your fresh tank, and that's what your HVAC system. So if you hit that, it's going to be where you get your air conditioning. You can push front or back. It's not going to do anything. You're going to have to go to the mode. So when you first hit the mode button, it's going to take you to fan. Now you can run that fan on either high or low. Now that is just moving air around using the air conditioner, no heating or cooling involved. Hit the button one more time, you get into cool. So now when you're in cool, you're going to notice it says auto in fan. If you hit the auto, you can run the fan on either high or low, but that does run full time regardless of what you have the room set to. Now, having it on auto means it is an on-demand system, so it'll kick in and out as needed. So let's say the zone is 76 and we're set to 77. So you heard the air conditioner running for a second there. Now it cut out because we have the room set to 77. If we were to turn that down to 75, you're going to hear the air conditioner kick in a split second here. So like I said, auto just meaning it's an on-demand system. I would recommend leaving it in that. Temperature button is set on and off. Hitting the cool button again. Now that's going to kill the air conditioner, fire up the furnace. The furnace again does run off propane, so making sure you do that purging procedure. There is, if you hit the source, you can change it between gas and electric. There's no electric furnace installed, so it is just the gas furnace whenever you are using it. You got your LP detector right here near the ground. If this guy ever starts going off, just turn off the main supply of propane at the front of the unit, open up some windows and vents just to air things out a little bit. And the furnace does only have one fan setting. Hitting it one more time again will get you into auto. Whenever this is an auto, it'll kick in whatever it thinks it needs. So whether that be the air conditioner or the furnace. And then one more time to cycle back to off. hit the home button to go home. That's pretty much it for that screen there. And then of course your monitor panel is up top. Keys hanging up on the board here. That's gonna be all the keys for your unit. Now we can take a step on into the bedroom. You got your fire exit here on the wall. Take that handle, push it out. Then you can pull on this red handle. The screen's gonna pop right out of place and you can hop on out of the unit. Of course, you'd have to pull the red tab. Travel straps, always making sure that the sliding doors latch into place before you start traveling, because as you can see, it'll allow it to slide around freely without it being strapped in, which will probably cause damage. And again, you do want to try to avoid that. Other than that, pretty standard bedroom space. All the blinds in the unit do work the same way. They just kind of sit where you leave them. Then one quick pull will allow them to retract back up. You got a separate light switch in the bedroom here in case you can get your monitor panel system. TV mounted on the wall up top. This is where you're going to be pre-mounted and pre-wired for air conditioner. If you'd like to get set up with that, just contact your parts department and they can put together a quote for you. It is currently just a standard roof vent. Big window up at the front. It's got its own blind. That way you can black it out for it in the mornings. Another fire exit on this side. Now, if you pick up on the foot of the bed, it's on its own gas strut, so it's going to start picking up. You get a big storage space, as well as a little bypass hose for when it does come time for winterization. And the way you get access to your water pump and water heater is the water pump is by pulling back on this. You're going to come down, you're going to see the little brass fitting there. That's where you're going to have to then thread in that tube and begin your winterizing process. That folds back down like this. You can push this and fold this back down. Now, coming around to the main living space. Right inside this door, number 1. Nice big pantry space. This is also where you're going to get access to the back of your water heater when it comes time to winterization. In your slide out area, both of these do fold down into beds in case you were to have extra guests that doesn't fit inside the double bunks. Table folds down just by lifting on that latch, folding it down, take your back cushions, the couch. You're just going to have to pick up on the foot of it, pull it towards you. It's going to pull right out of place. Of course, you just have to remove the cushions first. The lights inside the slide out area are on a dimmer switch, which is kind of nice. Turn the power switch on. You can go very dim or very bright. Wherever you leave them, that's where they stay. And then into your kitchen area, again, whenever you're using any of the storage inside the unit, always be mindful of drains, water lines, and wiring, things like that. Kitchen sink, pretty standard. You got a microwave up top, again, just like home. And then you do get your range hood. I always recommend running your range hood whenever you are running your stove. That way you're evacuating those propane fumes appropriately. Try and keep as much of them out as possible. And then to get your stove to light, again, we're just talking about that purging thing. So whenever you do turn the system off at the front, it allows air into the system. Once air makes its way into the system, it does have to be purged out. Now, most times it can take a few minutes, so you do have to be patient with it. But it probably will fire up pretty quickly just because I had the system running earlier. So you have this, push it in, turning it over to the high option. You hit your igniter, you're going to see it fires right on up. Now, whenever you are running this whenever you have one of these gas valves on, it's very important that you turn this igniter every few seconds. That way, if propane were to start coming out and you didn't notice right away, because you're hitting it every few seconds, it won't have a chance to have a buildup of gas. If you have a buildup of gas, there could be a minor combustion, which could cause some lost eyebrows and eyelashes. And again, we do want to avoid that. So just making sure that you do that appropriately. And the reason I did say to purge the stove is because the stove is going to allow you to run the gas for as long as you need until you start getting gas. If you go to fire up your fridge, water heater, or furnace on propane and you haven't purged it yet, those will only try lighting themselves a few times before they're going to throw a fault code at you, which if you don't know what it means, it could throw a little wrench into your weekend. Again, we want to keep you having good times, so that's why we recommend firing up the stove. Then get the oven to light. It takes exceptionally long just because the gas orifice for the pilot is so small. But you're turning over the pilot option, pushing and holding the button in, allowing it a few seconds to purge, and then you can start hitting that igniter. Again, just hitting that igniter every few seconds, that way you don't have any buildup of gas. Sometimes you may have to turn it off and turn it back on again. You're gonna see then you get that pilot lit. Once the pilot's lit and can stay on its own, you can turn it up to your desired temperature and it does fire right on up. You get this little light switch here. It does turn on the illumination knobs or the oven light. You got all your fuse and breaker panels right down here. If you ever have a breaker trip, it's gonna sit in the middle, so you do just have to turn it off and then back on again to reset it. You'll have all your corresponding fuses on the right. And then you got your Dometic fridge here. Now this does have the possibility to run on gas. Up top, you got your options. So if you turn it on and this button is flush, it's going to be on auto. So it's going to first search for shore power. Once shore power is taken away, it'll automatically switch over to gas. If you're out boondocking, you want it to run solely on gas, you do just have to depress that. The fridge is going to try lighting itself. If you've had the system purge, it should automatically light and you shouldn't have a worry. But if this check light comes on and it starts beeping like it did at the beginning of the video, that's just letting you know that it failed to light on gas. Power button to turn it off. Temperature control is right here. The further you slide this plastic fin up, the colder the fridge is going to get. Your little entertainment center, which is pretty much just like home, minus the factor down below, you got your stereo. It has zone 1 and zone 2. Zone 2 will be your interior speakers. Zone 1 will be your exterior speakers. And then right down there is your fireplace. Again, pretty simple. Power button on the right. You got your different heat options that you can turn up. You got your different flame colors you can choose between. And then you got a timer that just goes anywhere from 30 minutes to about 6 hours. Power button again to turn it off. Bunk spaces, you do have a little ladder to get up to your top bunk. If you were to put this ladder down, just noticing it does come into contact with the slide out. So before you ever run your slide out, always triple checking that you have that ladder folded in. That way, again, you're not going to be damaging anything. Lights are on this button here again, so you can turn them on and off from the bunk space, I guess. Then if you open up this door, it does let you into the bathroom. Power switch is on your left. Roof vent up top, main GFI plug on the wall. You got reset in the middle, test down below. If you ever have an outlet that doesn't work, this would be the first place I would look. Other than that, it's a pretty standard bathroom with your own little door to get out. That is going to be it for this unit here. If you have any other questions, feel free to give us a call.